Now, this is quite a discovery. Fragments of a biblical scroll, along with other relics, have been found in desert caves in Israel.
The world is shaken as a long-forgotten 2,100-year-old Bible reveals something about humanity's past and future. The reemergence of the ancient Book of Enoch, hidden away for centuries by the Church and miraculously preserved, threatens to upend everything we thought we knew. Recently unearthed in Ethiopia, this forgotten scripture has resurfaced at a pivotal moment, poised to reveal unsettling truths about the human condition and spark a new era of understanding. What are the secrets contained within its pages? What answers about our origins does this ancient book hold? Join us as we explore how a 2,100-year-old Bible reveals terrifying knowledge about humankind. The Book of Enoch. It's often a mystery how texts change the contexts of history, beliefs, and ideologies. Times have truly changed, and so is how people perceive religion, so answers from the scripture and scientific views aren't enough anymore. Globally, a vast array of evidence suggests that human history may be far more complex than what we've been led to believe. A prime example is the Book of Enoch, a text once revered within the Church, but later expunged from the Bible due to its contentious content. It wasn't until the 18th century, a time of rising humanism and scientific independence from religious institutions, that the initial chapters resurfaced. The stories within, particularly those about fallen angels and the giant Nephilim, have revolutionized the Christian worldview and offered profound, unexpected insights into human nature. Despite its significant role in early Christianity, the Book of Enoch was omitted from the official Bible, leaving us wondering why a once respected text was pushed aside and nearly forgotten. This ancient document challenges conventional biblical narratives, painting a dark picture of humanity's future with tales of world-ending events and divine judgments. These grim predictions prompt us to reflect on the consequences of our actions. The Book of Enoch also presents a fascinating account of the Nephilim, a fierce race born from the union of fallen angels and human women, upending traditional notions of good and evil. Additionally, the book is rumored to contain magical spells, forbidden knowledge, and lost ancient technologies, potentially holding the power to transform our understanding of the world. The Bible itself is not without its complexities, featuring odd and sometimes violent tales that extend beyond heavenly messages of hope. With themes of violence, injustice, and darkness woven throughout its pages, it raises questions about the exclusion of the Book of Enoch. The book itself is considered pseudepigraphal writing, which means it is a writing which claims as its author someone who did not produce it, in other words, a forgery. The Blue Letter Bible goes on to say, the real author wrote the book under the name of someone else. The idea was to provide the writing with some sort of authority that it did not deserve. Consequently, these are not authentic writings. So, who was Enoch and why is he shrouded in curiosity? The answers to these questions may hold the key to unlocking a more nuanced understanding of human history and our place within it. So, let's find out. Enoch, the seventh descendant of Adam. Enoch appears in different religious traditions but is rarely discussed in regular church teachings, even though he plays a significant role. In the Old Testament and the Jewish Tanakh, which are essentially the same, Enoch is described as the seventh descendant from Adam, the father of Methuselah, and the great-grandfather of Noah. There's a famous line from Genesis that goes, "And Enoch walked with God, and he was no more, for God took him away." This has led to much speculation about what it means to walk with God and exactly what happened when God took him away. Many believe this suggests that Enoch didn't die like most people do, but was instead taken alive into heaven by God. In Jewish Kabbalah, Enoch is transformed into the archangel Metatron, who is especially favored by God and envied by other angels because he was once human. It's intriguing that someone with such a unique biblical story would be deliberately left out by the church. Although Enoch is mentioned in the New Testament, his book was never added to the canon of the Christian Bible, making his role seem almost unimportant, despite being the only person to ascend to God while still alive. In the Islamic tradition, Enoch is known as Idris. The Quran mentions Idris a couple of times, praising him as a prophet and a truthful and righteous man. Like Enoch, Idris is believed to have been taken up to heaven, highlighting his esteemed status with God. Stories outside the Quran talk about Idris's wisdom, his contributions to scripture and science, and his role as a pioneer among prophets. For centuries, the Book of Enoch was hidden away, preserved by monks in Ethiopia away from the Western churches that wanted to forget it forever. But then, historians rediscovering this extraordinary text in Africa brought it back into the light. The Ethiopian Christian Church, which follows older scriptures and traditions, played a crucial role in keeping this text. By the 18th century, Enoch's book made its way back to Europe for the first time and slowly started to come out from the shadows of church history, passing through the hands of mystics, scholars, and researchers. Many now look to Enoch's writings to find the true origins of mankind, emphasized by God's affection for Enoch, whom he chose as his scribe. It's believed that many early Christian writings found their way into the Abyssinia region of East Africa, where they have been kept safe. The Ethiopian Church claims to hold the original texts of the Ten Commandments in the Ark of the Covenant, suggesting a preservation of the original Church's authentic scriptures and messages. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, recognized as one of the world's oldest Christian denominations, traces its roots directly back to the 1st century AD. Christianity is said to have been introduced to Ethiopia by the Queen's eunuch treasurer and was established as the state religion in the 4th century by Frumentius, Ethiopia's first consecrated bishop. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church holds several unique books that you won't find in other Christian denominations. This church is one of the oldest forms of Christianity, and its traditions might be the most unchanged from the early days. Historians nowadays often turn to Africa to explore these untouched aspects of Christian history. The oldest version of the Book of Enoch, for example, is preserved in Ge'ez, an ancient Ethiopian language. For linguists, decoding Ge'ez is as straightforward as translating Latin. Because of this, the versions of the Book of Enoch found in Europe today are believed to be genuine and unaltered. So how does the Ethiopian Church keep old wisdom? And what's its views on good and bad? The Ethiopian Church. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church is a treasure trove of ancient texts, practices, and rituals that offer a unique glimpse into the earliest days of Christianity nearly 2,000 years ago. Unlike the Western Christian tradition, which has been shaped by countless translations and selective editing by church authorities, the Ethiopian Church has preserved a distinct and unaltered understanding of the faith. The Book of Enoch, a pivotal text in Ethiopian Orthodox tradition, is believed to hold the secrets of the world's origin and the nature of evil and sin. It portrays humans as capable of both great good and great evil, with only their love and commitment to God guiding them towards the light. Ethiopian Orthodox scholars view the dynamics of good and evil as an inherent part of the universe, with humanity's role being to resist evil and strive towards goodness. The Book of Enoch offers a profound and spiritually rich perspective on the world, filled with visions and revelations that reflect the ultimate destiny of the soul and the purpose of creation. Despite these deep insights, the Catholic Church tends to ignore the Book of Enoch, and even independent scholars often dismiss it due to its unconventional theology and descriptions of angels and the end of the world. The story of the Bible's development is fascinating. In the centuries following Christ's life, various texts about Jesus, the apostles' teachings, and other spiritual writings circulated among Christian communities. While some texts, like the four Gospels, Acts of the Apostles, and Paul's letters, became central to church teachings, others were met with debate and disagreement. As the church sought to define a clear set of scriptures, the criteria for inclusion became increasingly strict, emphasizing apostolic origins and agreement with accepted beliefs. This led to the exclusion of texts that didn't fit the mold, resulting in the formalization of the New Testament as we know it today, comprising 27 books recognized by all Christian communities. But that's not the end of it. The questions. Critics argue that the selection of biblical texts was based on shaping a specific narrative, sometimes prioritizing control over spiritual freedom. Allegedly, thousands of texts, including lesser-known Gospels and early Christian writings, remain hidden in the Vatican archives, raising questions about their exclusion from the Bible. In the mid-1940s, the discovery of scrolls with ancient Christian and Jewish texts in a cave by the Dead Sea sparked controversy. Some texts, like the Book of Enoch, offer a different perspective on early Christianity and Jesus' life. The term Apocrypha refers to texts related to Jesus' life and the events of the Old Testament, written from approximately 1200 BC to the 2nd century AD. These texts, not included in the current Bible, are not officially recognized as apocryphal. Among the Apocrypha are benign variations of familiar stories from both the Old and New Testaments. However, some texts clash significantly with mainstream teachings, especially those of the Catholic Church, as they present a different view of the Messiah and biblical events. When the Bible was first compiled in the 3rd century AD, no eyewitnesses to the described events were alive. The compilation of the canon, still valid today, was likely influenced by motives involving control and manipulation of the Christian story. From the beginning, there was an element of control and manipulation. Today, researchers believe that numerous translations have altered the original meanings of the texts multiple times. One of the most famous excluded writings is the Gospel of Thomas, discovered in 1945 in Nag Hammadi. This gospel is viewed as an almost complete account of Jesus' life, though it presents some events differently. Thomas, considered one of the most authentic writers, portrays a relatable Jesus who simplified his teachings to 2 commandments: sincerity in speech and action. In Thomas's writings, Jesus focuses on compassion and kindness. The texts, dating from 60 to 250 AD, start with, "These are the hidden words that Jesus spoke, which Judas Thomas wrote down. Whoever understands the 114 verses of this scripture will overcome death and find the way to immortality." The Bishop of Alexandria disapproved of certain Gospels, like those of Thomas, Philip, and Truth. Instead of destroying them, their supporters hid them safely, where they remained for nearly 2,000 years. Also, women's roles in the scriptures were often minimized, and biased views against women were included. Women, apostles, or disciples were overlooked. Lesser-known writings reveal that Jesus had as many women around him as men, including a significant connection with Mary Magdalene. While today's Bible portrays her as a sinner, some texts suggest she was actually a close companion or possibly even Jesus' partner. The Gospel of Mary doesn't delve into Jesus' personal life, but rather what happened to his physical body after death. The first Apocalypse of James, likely written in the 3rd century by followers of Valentinianism, describes conversations between Jesus and his brother James about hidden codes that could unlock heaven. Emperor Constantine banned this apocalypse in the 4th century, but it survived and was rediscovered in 1945 at Nag Hammadi. After exploring Ethiopia's special texts, what else have been forgotten from the Bible? Let's delve into the translation of the Bible that's changed our perspective of the Holy Book. Giants in ancient lands. The books of Adam offer a fascinating glimpse into the lives and challenges of Adam and Eve, particularly their encounters with Satan. These stories, available in numerous languages and versions, provide a unique perspective on life after paradise, including references to the Nephilim, the offspring of human women and giants, as well as Seth, their 3rd son. Despite his significant role in the Old Testament, Enoch, one of the 7 patriarchs, receives only a brief mention in the Bible. His remarkable life, which led to his ascension to heaven alive by God and his connection to Noah and Jesus, make his exclusion from the Bible puzzling. The Book of Enoch, left out of the Bible, likely due to the Church's desire to maintain the uniqueness of ascending to heaven, offers valuable insights into the early days of humanity. Aristeas's letter sheds light on the initial translation of Moses' books into Greek, suggesting that these early translations were riddled with errors, raising questions about the accuracy of the Bible as we know it today. The Catholic Church, however, stands by the legitimacy of these translations. In the Solomon Islands, a breathtakingly beautiful archipelago east of Papua New Guinea, local legends speak of the Nephilim, giant beings said to have dominated the area 1,000 years ago. The first Europeans, led by Alvaro de Mendana, arrived in 1568, drawn by the promise of immense riches, and named the islands after King Solomon, renowned for his wealth. Today, extensive mining operations have led to environmental concerns, and locals caution about the risks of awakening the supposed giants. Marius Boirayon, an anthropologist, has dedicated his work to studying the legends of giants in the Solomon Islands. His 2010 book shares captivating insights into the giants, describing them as approximately 10 feet tall with distinctive features and complex social structures. He also recounts local stories of people being taken by a particularly terrifying giant, highlighting the strong local belief in their presence. The Solomon Islands, a rugged and untouched paradise of dense jungles and secluded mountains, are rarely visited by outsiders. This hidden world, preserved from modern influence, is said to be home to giants. One of the most striking tales from the islands is about a young girl named Mungo, who disappeared as a child and returned 25 years later pregnant. Her harrowing story of living as the wife of a giant and the tragic fate of her son has left a lasting impact on the local community. Local lore suggests that some islanders know the exact location of her son's grave, yet no one has attempted to uncover it, leaving the truth about this unusual story shrouded in mystery. Nephilim. The ancient scriptures of the Old Testament mention the Nephilim in fleeting snippets, leaving much to the imagination. These enigmatic beings, described as the children of giants and human women, are said to have had fathers who were fallen angels, or in some interpretations, extraterrestrial beings from the skies. The nature of the Nephilim is viewed differently across religious texts, with Christianity portraying them as mighty heroes of immense strength, while Jewish texts depict them as malevolent demons who brought their violent tendencies to earth. These accounts suggest that despite their human connections, the giants could not shed their destructive behaviors, embodying hate and aggression. It's hinted that they might one day return to wreak havoc. In the apocalyptic visions of the Bible, specifically in Revelation, there's a prophecy about an army of 200 million bizarre beings that will unleash a catastrophic plague, wiping out a third of the world's population. This foreboding force is indirectly connected to the Nephilim, with some scholars believing that these giants will be the harbingers of doom in the final days. The exclusion of the Book of Enoch from the Bible in the 3rd century was due to church authorities' belief that it lacked divine inspiration, contrasting with the accepted Gospels believed to be written under divine guidance. Enoch, an important biblical figure and the great-grandfather of Noah, was said to have been so favored by God that he was taken to heaven alive, bypassing death. This ascension challenges the unique divine status attributed to Jesus, possibly leading to Enoch's story being left out of the standard biblical canon. However, in some Eastern Christian texts, Enoch's writings are preserved, suggesting a belief that access to the divine is possible in one's lifetime through spiritual practices. This notion aligns with some modern interpretations that see ascension tales as symbolic of spiritual enlightenment, a concept also present in Islamic teachings where Jesus is considered a prophet who continued his teachings after surviving crucifixion. For those unfamiliar with symbolic interpretations, the Codex Seraphinianus might seem like the weirdest book ever created, possibly the product of a delusional mind. Composed by an Italian artist in the 1980s, it features a series of surreal illustrations that transform human forms in unimaginable ways and texts that appear meaningful but are undecipherable. The Codex doesn't aim to convey hidden truths, but rather explores the boundaries of imagination and the nature of artistic expression, challenging our perceptions of reality and the written word. From ancient texts to hidden letters, we delve into the strange texts and magical books that amazed scholars and shaped spiritual beliefs. Enoch, the man turned angel. Similarly intriguing is the Soiga book, known as the Will of God, a medieval Latin document that captivated John Dee, a renowned scholar and advisor to Queen Elizabeth I. This enigmatic book is packed with mystical content, including spells, rituals, and detailed descriptions of celestial hierarchies. Dee dedicated his life to decoding this text, drawn by its complex blend of magic and spirituality. Though he never fully deciphered it, the book's disappearance and eventual partial recovery in modern libraries suggest its significant impact and the high status of its author. This manuscript, written in impeccable Latin, hints at the involvement of a highly educated and possibly affluent individual, capturing the imagination of scholars and mystics alike with its rich yet elusive content. Enoch, also known as Hanok in the early parts of the Old Testament, is a figure shrouded in fascinating stories. His name likely originates from the Canaanite word Hanok, meaning witness or initiate, pointing to his significant role. Although Enoch is only briefly mentioned in the Bible, he stands out due to his extraordinary fate, being taken to heaven by God without actually dying, a rare event that makes him quite special. His family background is equally intriguing. As a direct descendant of Seth, the third son of Adam and Eve, and an ancestor of Noah and, through a longer family line, of Jesus of Nazareth, Enoch's connections are impressive. Despite these connections, he is barely mentioned in the main Christian texts such as those of the Roman Catholic and Protestant churches. However, in Jewish tradition and among Christian Slavs, entire books are dedicated to this remarkable prophet. Around 100 years ago, a remarkably well-preserved Book of Enoch was discovered in the Qumran caves near the Dead Sea. This book delves deeper into his story, describing how God transformed him into an extraordinary being. This transformation suggests a closeness to divinity that Enoch shared with Jesus, putting a different spin on Jesus of Nazareth, traditionally viewed in Christianity as the unique Son of God who ascended to heaven. Enoch's story challenges the notion that Jesus was a one-of-a-kind case, introducing the idea that others, like Enoch, may have received similar honors, a being like Jesus Christ. In the Book of Genesis, Enoch is listed among 10 patriarchs renowned for their incredibly long lives. His father, Jared, was 162 years old when Enoch was born and lived for another 800 years. Enoch himself was 65 when his son Methuselah was born, who lived to be over 900 years old. Enoch lived 300 more years alongside God, and at the age of 365 was taken up to heaven while still alive, a unique event emphasized in the biblical account. The term Enoch's ascension, often used today in funeral context, originally meant something much more direct and significant in biblical terms. While the deaths of other patriarchs are clearly stated, Enoch uniquely was taken to himself by God. In the New Testament, there is little mention of either Enoch's rise or his importance in mainline churches, which is odd. His story grows even bigger in the Book of Enoch, where, despite some resistance from other heavenly beings, he is promoted to the rank of an angel, specifically Metatron. This transformation from man to angel and his role as a divine envoy is a special honor not widely recognized outside of Jewish tradition. Enoch's story raises big questions about why such an impressive tale hasn't been featured more prominently in the Bible. His progression from a man to a high-ranking angelic figure suggests layers of divine storytelling that challenge usual views and remain intriguingly underexplored in Christian teachings. The Book of Enoch isn't just a story about Enoch himself. It delves deep into intense themes, particularly about the origins of evil. Imagine a group of rebel angels who grew tired of their celestial posts and came down to Earth, deciding to mingle and have children with human women. This wasn't just a minor fling. These unions produced tough giants who went on to cause chaos worldwide. What's fascinating is that the book names these angels, making it clear who was responsible for what. Then there's Enoch, a beacon of goodness in times that were anything but good. He's portrayed as a mega-wise man, the first prophet who not only spoke on behalf of goodness, but also documented his insights. He claims to have written 360 books, a staggering feat. Enoch's knack for writing and wisdom wasn't just for show. He set the stage for understanding celestial patterns that dictate the passage of time, a big deal back then. Their wild stories captured imaginations and raised questions about the authenticity of such events happening or ever happening. Let's take a route into the Bible's untold tales of nightmares, supernatural creatures. While scientists think this is how the world would end, Hollywood has drawn on some of them to make a series of mostly terrible movies. Asteroids are said to eventually end the world, just like the catastrophic event 66 million years ago that wiped out the dinosaurs. Perhaps it could be ended by other cosmic dangers that exist. How about a relatively nearby supernova that would strike our planet with intense sterilizing radiation? Similarly, a relatively close gamma-ray burst could spell the end of life on our planet. The Bible doesn't particularly agree with these visions, though, so this is what the end looks like in the Holy Book. In the realm of biblical tales, there exist stories of giants, ghosts, and strange tales that have captivated human imagination for centuries. Among these accounts, the locusts stand out as particularly unsettling. Unlike ordinary pests, these locusts are depicted as a terrifying force, swarming in droves under celestial guidance and leaving devastation in their wake. The Book of Revelation paints a vivid picture of these locusts as hybrid creatures with horse and scorpion features, complete with hair and battle gear. To this day, locusts continue to wreak havoc in various parts of the world, their sudden appearances and disappearances inspiring a mix of wonder and dread. Another ominous group is the four horsemen of the apocalypse, harbingers of catastrophe and destruction. Each horseman represents a different type of disaster: widespread disease, wars, famine, and ultimately, death. Their grand entrance is marked by Jesus opening a scroll containing the future's darkest events. This imagery has resonated throughout history, particularly during times of widespread suffering like the Middle Ages, when Europe was ravaged by plague and warfare. The horsemen's tales serve as a reflection of deep human fears and experiences, blurring the lines between good and evil. These stories, featuring angels, prophets, dragons, and apocalyptic riders, weave a complex narrative that transcends the supernatural. They touch on fundamental human concerns about morality, captured in texts that have puzzled and fascinated people for centuries. Let us consider the beast, a terrifying creature described in John's visions. Imagine a fantastical being with the body of a leopard, the paws of a bear, and the mouth of a lion. This beast receives power from a dragon along with a throne and authority. One of its heads appears to be fatally wounded, yet it miraculously heals. According to prophecy, this beast will emerge at the end of the world, bringing chaos and destruction to humanity. The first beast is a malevolent force, causing suffering and dragging people into dire situations. The second beast, representing a false prophet, operates through slow, insidious damage, leading people to ruin without them even realizing it. Both beasts are connected to the number 666 and the figure known as the Antichrist, embodying a darker force that opposes all that is good. When science offers no hope for humanity on Earth, the Bible appears to have a happy ending. Christian teachings offer hope, asserting that Christ's love can ultimately save humanity from destruction. The ultimate showdown has Christ beating these monsters and throwing them into a lake of fire, which saves the planet from their terror. The old Earth, the final fantasy. So let's revisit the fascinating story of the Nephilim from the Book of Genesis. These beings were the offspring of rebellious giants and human women, initially described as wild and uncontrollable, bringing chaos wherever they went. However, as stories evolved, they were portrayed as exceptionally tall and strong humans, rather than chaotic beings. Interestingly, some tales link the Nephilim to Seth, Adam's third son, and even suggest connections to famous Greek heroes like Hercules and Achilles, implying they might have been their ancestors. In modern times, some people speculate that the Nephilim could be hybrids between humans and aliens, blending ancient myths with contemporary extraterrestrial theories. Moving on to the topic of witches and magical women, we find that in biblical times they were viewed in a highly negative light. The Book of Exodus sternly declares that magicians should not be allowed to live, leading to the persecution of innocent individuals like healers and herbalists during the Middle Ages. Leviticus goes even further, advocating for the stoning of mediums to death, demonstrating the strong disapproval of these practices according to the religious norms of the time. The story of Queen Jezebel, seen as a wicked sorceress, serves as a prime example of this negative perception. She was believed to have used her powers for malevolent purposes, such as controlling men and influencing wars, ultimately facing a brutal punishment from religious leaders. Ghosts and supernatural beings are prevalent in the Bible, particularly in the Old Testament. One notable story is about King Saul, who in his desperation summoned a spirit. In the New Testament, Jesus is initially mistaken for a ghost by people who see him walking on water, only to reveal his physical presence. Another intriguing tale involves Nebuchadnezzar II, the Babylonian king who was transformed into a werewolf-like creature as a lesson in humility. This story showcases how ancient myths blended human traits with animalistic ones to convey deep lessons about pride and divine power. There's also the biblical beast known as Behemoth. Although not necessarily evil, Behemoth is described as an incredibly powerful, massive plant eater that no one can defeat. While some believe it to be a rhino or hippo, others speculate that Behemoth, along with Leviathan, might have been dinosaurs, fitting into a belief that the world is only a few thousand years old, according to some Christian fundamentalists. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Also, check out another interesting video by clicking on the video shown on your screen. See you on the other side.